Yes, thank you.
It's my great pleasure to introduce Andrew Foss. Andrew and myself have known each other for many, many years, and and he's one of the most wonderful teachers. We are linked together with our association, British Association of Vedic Astrology. So those of you who want to come to London, pound is less now, you know.
Yes, it's true. It's getting cheap.
It's like almost they're saying by January to beat parity to dollars, so it's worthwhile coming to London. We have a wonderful conference there. But it's almost as long as our conference here has been running. At Shivananda's 17th conference, ours is 19th. So just a few years older. But Andrew has written this wonderful book on all the planets. And you can download just one planet at a time. And then hopefully this month, the hardback book is coming. But it's, you know, there's this whole tradition of having 108 shlokas or 108 shlokas for each planet. And that Andrew has put each shloka there with explanation, with his great divine wisdom that he has. You know, Andrew's really got wisdom. You know, he's really good. And so you get this wonderful opportunity to download one at a time, or you can have all of them at the end, and plus the hardback copy. So that's what he's sharing with us now from his book, I think. So yogaoftheplanets.com. And also, I should not forget the great PhD of his software. So if those of you who want Vedic software and with all the techniques you can possibly think about, and more, and the Sri Jyoti stuff. So you can talk to him, he's here. So Andrew, thank you.
So thank you, Kamilaji, Swamiji, yogis. So we'll start with a few very simple mantras for auspiciousness. You know them all. We'll just do it 3 times. Om Gam Ganapataye Namah. Om Gam Ganapataye Namah. Om Gam Ganapataye Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. So, as Kamilaji explained, there's this text, ancient text, which gives the sets of mantras for the different grahas. And it's always been used by the astrologers for upaya, for remedies. It's very remedial. It has a lot of knowledge in it. So working through this, actually the most difficult is Rahu. That means that the biggest challenge really must be really in this graha, in this. So when you're going through, because these mantras give a very high level, you know, they can be seen as a very elevated part of the consciousness. So that's why they're very much connected to yoga, to Vedanta, because it really takes your awareness to a high level. But still they have to deal with the challenging aspects of what we call the malefics. Rahu being a particularly strong malefic, so he's creating a lot of turmoil. This has to be addressed in the mantras, but we have to try to understand the highest, we have to find the highest in that. So I'm hoping that in this, little time we have together now, that we'll, to some extent, achieve that. You'll get to understand from some examples I'll show of these, especially of the greatest saints, how what appears to be a negative thing, in fact, can have a very high quality to it. So what I found when I first, started working with these, which was a long time ago, about the same time as I met Mulaji. So I made a recording and I would give it to some clients who had particular Rahu problems, and they told me they felt better after listening to it. So, it goes through all the different energies, but in the process it kind of has a cleaning effect. So anyway, we'll see. But I thought we'd talk a little bit about Rahu first, getting the mantras. So first we should find out what are the positives. So I didn't write anything here. It doesn't mean that there's no positive. No, I thought we hide them and what I thought. This is just my opinion or my thoughts, but we see what your thoughts are. Can anyone think of some positives?
Innovation.
Okay, good. Very good.
Positively different.
Positively different. See, that's very good. Drive. Okay, that's true. Determination.
Positive ambition.
Positive ambition. It's all true, yeah. Yeah, think outside. This is a very, one of the things that I would have thought of. That's very true. It's totally one of the blessings of Rahu, to think outside the box, because Rahu represents boundaries. And therefore it gives the ability to cross the boundaries. In fact, it tends to cause us to cross the boundaries. And most of the problems are because maybe we weren't meant to cross the boundary, or at least other people don't like us crossing the boundary. So there's always this issue, like if you look at the situation in Europe, there are people who want to cross the boundary, and then the people on the other side said, no, you're foreign, Rahu, no, you stay at the border, go get your visa, which we won't give you. And they say, no, we're just going to walk across the border, if you put a fence, we'll knock it down, right? You see what I mean? So, but this is going on the big scale, it's going on the small scale. Because all of us, we have certain concepts. Okay, they're boundaries. We have our own rules, or other people's rules, they're all boundaries. Some people just don't want to have anything to do with the rules, right? All of us, to some extent. You see, it's so common, it's just what we're dealing with every day. Let's see what I wrote. Okay, these are the things that I wrote, but it's all the same as what you said, really. Broad-minded. Why? Because they're capable of appreciating the people on the other side of the boundary. If you want to negotiate with people you think are foreign, you have to send a diplomat with a strong Rahu. Because if you don't appreciate or show any sympathy for the other people, they're not going to agree to anything. Breaking boundaries, we've had that one. Clever with strategies. Indeed. Find me a single politician who doesn't have a significant Rahu. And that's why we're complaining about them all the time. Protects the nectar. Rahu is the one given the job of protecting the amrita, the nectar. You know, if you visit a shrine in India, then usually at the doorway they've carved some frightening demon. Yeah? On either side of the doorway. We ignore it because we think it's just a statue, but the whole idea was, you know, you shouldn't just go in the door mindlessly. You know, it's like you arrive at the border, you have to have a small interview. The guy's looking at you. Where have you been? Where do you live? And he's just watching to see, is there anything suspicious? Does this person have some negative thought in their mind? They're trained to spot it. You know, this is this. So, if we want the nectar, we have to understand the gatekeeper. And because he's protecting the nectar, he can grant boons. Any level of boon, actually. You know what I mean by boons? The highest boon is the nectar, because then you can live forever. And this is all tied up with it, Rahu being part of the Kundalini axis. Ketu is the tail and Rahu is the head. So the snake is like this. So this is the tip of the spine, we could say, and then all the nerves are running up, and then it spreads out in the cortex. You know, the brain is like the head of the snake. So Rahu is the head. So it's kind of important. And he is the Lord of Bhoga. What does Bhoga mean? Yeah, Bhoga is like eating. It's just, you want to consume the world. Which is what we do, isn't it? That's the human thing. Animals have small bhoga, but we have really potentially unlimited bhoga. Unfortunately, the earth has some limits, but we don't really understand that. We want more and more and more. So they have a, you know, there's an index. Each year they say at a certain time they've calculated how many earths are needed to supply the demand of the human beings. Yes. It's like that. It is. So right now we're, I think, about 2 earths are required to supply the current human appetite. You would think we would be getting a little bit nervous. But no, I want a bigger car, I want, you know, it's part of our nature, you know. And the dance between Guru, that's Jupiter, and Rahu, Jupiter's telling us we should live within some boundary. We should respect the earth. And Rahu is saying, no. Give me more. Someone else can have less, I want more. So it's all part of the dance. And we are part of the dance because we have one Jupiter and we have one Rahu inside of us, aided and abetted by their friends. So the rest of the planets are all divided into the friends of Rahu and the friends of Jupiter, like that. So I guess we have to talk about the negatives. Because bhoga we can think of as a positive if it's our bhoga. So other people's bhoga we think is negative, right? So what are the negatives of Rahu? This we have to pay some attention to. Obsession. Actually, obsession is a lunar thing. I mean, you're not wrong, it's just that, you know, the Indian genius is that it's allocated everything to somebody. And they can't give everything to Rahu, so there has to be some sharing, you know. Huh? Cheat to win is definitely a Rahu tendency, there's no doubt about that. Insatiable, correct, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're definitely not wrong. Absolutely not wrong. Rahu, never satisfied. It's the source of all addiction. Paranoid is totally Rahu. It wants instant gratification. It doesn't mean it gets it. Mischievous. Yes, mischievous. He may be. I mean, Mercury is generally the one that is like the kid.
Mischievous and he's meaning in a nasty way.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. Exactly. It's adult mischief, Rahu. Child mischief, Mercury. Yeah. Yeah, but then we tend to behave like children, don't we? So, but you're right, it's totally true. Highly manipulative.
I think that's what he meant.
Yes, I mean, Rahu is the expert in manipulation.
But he has fun doing it to himself.
Yeah, he may be enjoying himself. When we're being manipulated, it's not so much fun. The stronger Rahu, that's why it's so good for the politicians. You know, they just move you into the sights of their gun and boom. Actually, that's two. No, you have to have the stab in the back. This is the.
Oh, that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're smiling nicely and chukadum. I mean, there's such classic has been going on in England in the last few days. You've never seen such classic. Like.
But also, you know, in cutting away, you know, where people divisive politics.
Yes, it's totally divisive. Rahu, he creates a boundary, cuts the boundary, creates another boundary. Chopping off, yes. You've got to understand that Rahu is the head. He doesn't have any hands. So he himself cannot do the handwork. He's just got this genius of a brain. You know, he employs other people to actually do the stabbing and all that. But he's manipulated the whole situation.
That's a very important point to make, no
No.
hand. The hand doesn't give.
Yeah, exactly. So all of the other guys have, right? Rahu's just got this huge head, which comes to another negative of Rahu. Big-headed. Massive ego. It's importantly, they say, right, the primary thing with Rahu is the egotism. So if you put Surya and Rahu together, my goodness. Which is why it's common in the politician. You just have to be the king, you know. And you're expert in manipulating the circumstances. I believe there was one American president, he ran his whole campaign on certain promises he was making. I think he promised the farmers something. And in those days there were a lot of farmers, so he got the presidency. And then, you know, within a few days he announced he was doing the opposite. So a whole bunch of farmers showed up at the White House. He met them. They said, "What about this thing you promised?" He said, "I lied." So the first thing I put down is this: he induces fear. Fear is a very critical thing. If you feel fear, then he's near. That's a good bit of poetry, I just thought. You know, so one way of dealing with fear, and I only have to start looking at this thing and I'm just feeling fearful, You know, it's sort of like, okay, he's here, right? So then what am I going to do? Fight or flight is our normal response. Okay. But the difficulty is that he's stronger than we are, so fighting is not going to work. He's probably faster than we are, so flying is also not going to work. So we have to understand how to be with him. Maybe, hopefully we'll understand that as we go along. But this is very critical because all of us, I don't think there's anybody born with a human body who never feels any fear. You know, if you have sufficiently great consciousness, probably you reach the fearless state. But the rest of us, we have to live with it from time to time. And some people have to live with it all the time. And you can see, look at the chart, it's too obvious. The person is living with a significant level of fear. If you're in Rahu Dasha, anyone in Rahu Dasha here? Okay. Usually, however what a front you put onto the world, there's a certain level of anxiety. Yeah? Usually. There's a feeling of insecurity that comes. And so you struggle with it. Because there he is. What's he going to do? Is he going to bite you? Stab you in the back? I mean, it's very real. And it doesn't matter. You can Rahu Mahadasha, Rahu Bhukti, planet that is conjunct Rahu, planet is aspected by Rahu, planet in Aquarius. I mean, it goes on and on. So there are not too many times in a lifetime when there's no influence of Rahu and we're completely feeling fearless. And this is probably one of the main reasons that people take to yoga. I'm sure Swamiji sees a continual succession of people arriving at the door with various issues related to internal turmoil and specifically, you know, different kinds of fears, right? So in the you know, when they draw the gods, we can say like Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu. Usually we see a snake is there, right? Lord Shiva is decorated with his king of the snakes. The other king of the snakes is with Vishnu. He's resting on him. So obviously there's some kind of harmony going on there. Lord Shiva is not in the least bit concerned about wearing a number of cobras. So that is what we're seeking, isn't it? If we can have continuous attention on our own Shivahood, then any number of snakes are welcome. In India, there's this concept that if you make some kind of progress in yoga, usually you'll get the darshan of some snake. They will just appear to give you darshan. So that's why there's this, why people, the good people, believe that you should not abuse the snake. You don't run at it with a shovel and try and kill it, huh? Okay. Critical. Rahu is the scandal mongerer. Oh, she did that. He did this. It's a very big thing, you know. If any level of criticism whatsoever is coming from the Rahu. So let's think. First criticism would be self-criticism. You think, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I can't understand what the Swamiji is telling me. I don't have enough money. Or whatever criticism you have about your life is coming from your fear, basically. Because it's all rooted in the fear. There's a saying, Dvitiyad bhayam bhavati. And that means that Dvitiyad means out of the sense of separation. Bhayam is fear, bhavati comes. So fear arises from a sense of separation. If you feel completely at one with your partner, for example, then you're utterly relaxed. But as soon as there's any sense of the other being somehow other, have some other idea, then there's slight nervousness develops. What will they do? What will happen to me? You know, all that. You know what I'm saying? So, inside, you know, if we were fully aware of our own unity as a self, then there would be no issue about the external circumstances, including how the body is, how the mind is. Because the mind and the body and the environment are external to the self. They're all outside the temple. The self is inside the temple. And the mind is looking after the outside of the temple. So outside the temple, someone throws some dirt on the street. The moon is looking, this is not good. They're disrespecting the temple. It's a big problem for the moon. But the self is inside the temple, is not in the least bit concerned with whatever goes on outside. You see, it's only a problem in the mind. So if there's a continuous awareness of the self, we're also not concerned. Sometimes big, sometimes small, sometimes wealthy, sometimes poor, all this thing is just going on, it's all the will of God. Right? So, self-criticism, it's worth, at least I feel, that it's worth not agreeing with it. This was a point made by one of the speakers yesterday, very good point, Jim, I think. You know, it's whatever you think is what becomes your reality. So if you think in some negative way about yourself or anything else, that becomes your reality. You're kind of reinforcing it. You know, you're building that building until it's your prison. I'm weak, I'm weak, I'm weak, I'm weak. Okay, now you feel totally weak. Every time anyone comes near you, you behave like you're weak. You see what I mean? Whatever the thing is. Because really the truth is neither weak nor strong. You know, people have this positive affirmation thing, which is a lot better than the negative. A lot better. In fact, the sages said, if you're stuck with some negative, think the opposite. You know, but ultimately what we want is neither this nor that. So don't give in to it, you know, don't give in to your own, whatever is the dialogue that's going on. If you just start saying, no, I'm just not going to entertain that thought, then gradually it'll become weaker and weaker and fade off. You see, people go in for these things. This is all part of the manipulation. Okay, if I present myself as sufficiently helpless, someone will help me. Right? I mean, you can be genuinely in need of help, but there are people who are, you know, using it. for the sake of getting help. And that's a big thing, because now your survival depends on someone helping you. So you become more and more manipulative, potentially. And we all have to deal with this circumstance. Sooner or later, we end up in a situation where someone is doing this to us, right? It's pure Rahu. But on the other hand, we should have compassion for them. If we see ourselves behaving like that, we should have compassion for ourselves, but also try not to do it. Then you think, no, I can't give this up because then no one will help me, right? Not like that. It's never like that. It's not the way the universe works. We think like that. It's part of the trap. That is the trap. Rahu's trap. He says, no, you have to keep on manipulating, otherwise everyone will abandon you. But then your friend says, nonsense. Right now I'm putting up with your nonsense. If you were just like genuinely in need of help, then it would be a pleasure to help you. Now I'm putting up with it because, I feel it's my duty. You see what I mean? Everybody else can see what we're up to. Everybody can see what we're up to. It's just that we entertain this little idea that we can keep it a secret. We all do it. Come on, I don't think anyone would pretend that they're not playing this game to some extent. Everybody, like parents, they think they can hide something from their kids. The kids can see right through the parents. I opened some book the other day, just picked it up. I saw this book, I picked it up. Some lady had written some entertaining stories about her family. Her 6-year-old came to her one day and said, Mummy, you should be a little nicer to Dad. She said, there's a very nice lady in his office. You go on like this, he may take an interest in her. And then a huge drama starts. Eventually the lady goes to her husband and she says, okay, as long as this lady in the office agrees to do some of the homework, housework, and and she will do some of the cleaning and all that, it's okay, she can move in. The husband said, what are you talking? That lady, she spends so much time with her hairdryer, we would be bankrupt with the electric bill. It's just too much. Okay, all right. So Rahu loves the scandal, and if it's somebody else's scandal, we also might find it entertaining. Otherwise, the newspapers would have a problem, because most of the content is one scandal after another. Okay, this is a little bit serious. Rahu's primary thing is very selfish. Selfishness is cruel, is it not? But it's very difficult to completely avoid. We build a structure, we say, okay, no animals inside the house. When the ants come in, we go and buy an ant trap and we kill the ants, right? Because there's too many to pick them up one by one and put them outside, and anyway, they're back in the house within faster than we can put them outside. So some level of cruelty is very hard to avoid. The great rishis maybe, because they lived in the forest, if some animal crawled on them, they just let it alone and all that. If the animal starts eating them, they also let it alone. But we're not that like that. So one has to understand that we can't be a Rahu about other people's cruelty. We have to understand there's a certain level in all of us, and what the tradition in Vedic tradition is that it just accepts that running a household involves a few sins. Some small animals get killed, some things get chopped, these things happen, some things get burned. It's all part of running the household, it's part of human life. So for 2 weeks every year they would do some, well actually every day they would do some little yagya, make some offerings here and there, they would put some food for the ants, they would do this and that. And then once a year they would do some fasting. Okay, we'll take some suffering for all the little suffering that we caused that we weren't even aware of what we were doing. So this was how they kept life in a balance. We can't just say no cruelty, because if we're honest, But obviously big cruelty, not good. It's like the whole thing, maybe I shouldn't talk about it, but this whole debate about torture. Some people say torture, no, we need to do that for protect our own boga. But then the people running it say, no, it's stupid. If we talk nicely to the guy, after a while he tells us what we want to know. That's what the people found out. That they got much more out of the people by, give them a cigarette, let them have a cup of coffee, talk to them nicely, and slowly, slowly they would tell you something useful. Otherwise you treat them badly and they'll tell you this lie and that lie, and what's the point, you see? So one's approach that's not Rahu, or relatively less Rahu, the other is fully Rahu, and Rahu leads to Rahu, doesn't it? So, anyway. Alright, this is the selfish thing. And that's that, we talked about that. Okay. So for every graha, every planet, there's a avatar of Lord Vishnu. Were you aware of that? Everyone knows that? No? Okay. It's good to know the avatars, because the reason why Parashara and others have put it like this is that it's help us. That avatar helps us understand the problem and helps us get over it. And it's very interesting if you study the avatars, because there's a sequence. It starts with a fish. And when you look at it, you see, hey, that's just exactly what the people who've studied the history of life on Earth have. This picture's on the Wikipedia page for Varaha. They've studied life on Earth and watched its development. First some life in the ocean, then fish started becoming amphibians, then some mammals and animals appeared. Slowly, slowly there were creatures that were somewhat human, and eventually we had the humans, right? Well, that's exactly how the avatars. So the malefics are all associated with the animal and semi-animal. So naturally, Ketu, Rahu and Saturn are definitely in the animal compartment. Mars, as we'll talk about tomorrow, is when some humanity gets mixed with the animal. So Varaha is a boar. So this is a kind of primitive, or like, can't call it anything primitive, but it's a form of a mammal. It's a mammal, it's an animal. And what happened was that the earth, there are different stories, different versions of the story. So I've written it here a little bit. The earth, Bhudevi, had sunk in the waters. Everything was covered. The earth had sort of gone under the waters. And so either that just happened, or some demon captured the poor lady and took her down. So the gods appealed to Lord Vishnu, and he took the form of a boar, and he went in there and picked her up with his tusks. And if he found some demon along the way, he killed the demon. And then they married. So of course the rishis are telling us that many things with the story. The story is supposed to help us with Rahu Dasha, primarily. So that's why everybody usually tries very hard to get married during Rahu Dasha. Find some demon, some damsel in distress and rescue her. Then she'll definitely want to marry you. Rahu Dasha, we're constantly trying to keep our world from sinking under the ocean. We prop up one corner, the other corner starts sinking. It's a kind of personal global warming. And you notice the difference between the words sinking and sinning? Not much. So this is it. The thing is, primary fear is of the consequences of our own sin. You know, you've done something wrong, now you feel fearful. Why? Because either the government will come and take you, or the people you abuse will come and take you. Someone will come representing the sin that you committed and say, hey, now you have to pay. And we don't want to pay, so we feel fearful. Of course, if you take the attitude is, okay, I sinned, I'm ready to pay, and the fear's gone. You go to the police station, you say, look, I took this thing, I'm ready to take whatever the judge says. You know, the people reach that point at a certain stage, having run away for a long time, and at that point their soul is at peace. They may still go to prison, they may even get hung, who knows, but as far as they're concerned, they're at peace. You see the point? It's a wonderful thing. It says in the Manusmriti, that one of the ancient law books, that if you just confess, your problem is over. It's still the duty of the judge to punish you. That's fine. But for you, your sin is basically over because you confess. That's why it's good to say, I'm sorry. Instead of saying, no, it was your fault because of A, B, C, which is standard Rahu tactics. It's very easy to make up some story why it's somebody else's fault that I did this or I did that, right? But it's just a perpetual. What they say, one lie leads to 100 other lies, right? You know, it's like, you know, someone starts a business, they discover that by being a little bit scammy, they get a few more dollars, then they become a bit more scammy, and after a while they're totally scam. And then they think, this is not good, but what can I do? Because everything depends on this. And then what you see is that a day comes when Jupiter becomes strong. They go into Guru Dasha, and then either they think there's enough, and they admit to their crime, or somebody finds out. So you think Guru Dasha is great, it's going to give us more money. No, that's when the judgment will come. The truth will come out. Rahu is very good at hiding. They say Rahu is the cloud, he covers up the truth. He's covering up the self. Basically the knowledge within us is getting covered by the cloud. So we are getting away with it. The perfect crime. But no, it's terrible, because what we really want is the knowledge of the self. There's nothing more precious, and we're not getting it because we have covered it with a nice cloud of smoke. We have done it, it's not anybody else has done it. And all we have to do is be simple. Won't wait for Guru Dasha. We can say, okay, today I'm apologizing, I'm trying to make amends. It might happen sometimes. Yes?
Isn't it because, you know, you put it very nicely that you prevent it from sinking, and
Yes.
this is where the Guru AVATARA can come in.
Yes.
To prevent it from sinking, so all the discipline and everything that we can go through this Rahu Dasha, you
That's the point. You know, in Rahu Dasha, we're actually trying to on some level to, you know, it puts us in such difficult situations that we're really genuinely trying to find out the truth. You can't have Jupiter without Rahu first. So that's why Rahu is divine. He's a great teacher. You try every trick fails. So the day comes when you say, enough with the tricks. And if you don't ever seen anything of astrology, anyway you can know that is the day Jupiter has arrived. That's it. Because otherwise Jupiter comes, so nice, whatever I do is a success. After a while you turn into a complete Rahu. You know, Jupiter leads the Rahu and Rahu leads the Jupiter. It's a simple truth. You know, it's like you can be a very saintly person. So one day they say that people come to you and say, oh, you are the most saintly person. Oh, you alone can sit on this throne and protect the people. So you agree, you sit on the throne, they give you special shoes, special hat. After a while you think, I must be special. That is when the Rahu starts. And the more special you think you are, the more Rahu you become. So when Pope Francis was elected, he said, no special shoes. No, these fancy red shoes they give the place? He said, no, ordinary shoes. Go downtown, I'm taking a taxi. You know, he's trying not to become the Rahu. Why? Because he's a Rahu Atmakaraka. His soul, people who are Rahu Atmakaraka, the best people, because they don't think they're God. They know they're the sinner, so you can't convince them that they're some big fancy something. So if they have a strong influence of Jupiter, like Pope Francis is the best chart. Rahu and Jupiter in Sagittarius, he is the humble, holy person. Because Rahu is the Atmakaraka. He doesn't think he's God. Jupiter Atmakaraka, big problem. How many Jupiter Atmakarakas do we have? Okay. No, I mean the risk factor is that you can get carried away. You have some nice spiritual experience. You think, I could give, what do they call it? Satsang. Slippery slope. Because the two are constantly playing with each other. Jupiter represents faith, Rahu represents fear. The solution to fear is faith, right? But they're looking at each other all the time. So you know, you can move towards the faith, but then for some reason you can start sliding back towards the fear and the manipulation. You know, if you take anything, that's why some saints, they have this thing, I won't accept any donations. I mean, some famous examples of such people, because they're afraid of sliding into some kind of thing. I mean, the Swami is not supposed to take personally anything, right? Because once you start, you know, it's a slippery slope. If you say, okay, I'm just an ordinary person, I'm not some fancy, you know, I'm not the spiritual leader of the community, then fine, you know. Okay, I'm charging you X for the reading. It's fine. Nobody's trying to be anything abnormal or anything. But yes, Swamiji. You see, the point is, that's what I'm saying. If Rahu is the Atmakaraka and it's strongly influenced by Jupiter, the person will try to overcome they are fully aware of their deficiencies, because Rahu is the one that is saying, you know, the Rahu is the one that's criticizing, right? So Rahu says, I'm a sinner. Fundamentally, it's kind of a mistake, but in some circumstances it's good, you see. it's not really right to tell every child they're a sinner, because they grow up with a psychic attitude which leaves them partially, it's not good really. But if Rahu is strongly influenced by Jupiter, then you become a humble, holy person. That's why I say the best people are the Rahu Atmakarakas. Because they're humble, holy. I mean, the fact is, we love Pope Francis more than all the other popes that we've known. Why? Because he's humble. That's his best characteristic. He's wise as well, you see. He's wise, but he's not lording it over us. He will get down and wash our feet, like Jesus. But he couldn't do that if he thought he was some kind of special something, you see. But if you're not a Rahu Atmakaraka, it becomes increasingly difficult to have that kind of humility. You see, so we shouldn't just say, oh, Rahu bad. No, not at all. It's a question of understanding.
So Rahu and Makara is a transformation.
It's a form yeah, definitely. I mean, Rahu is all about transformation. Because the thing is to try to understand Rahu. So the sages gave us 108 mantras, and in the process of going through them, one gradually builds up a sort of understanding. And I'm hoping to give. So I think if we keep going, we'll perhaps, because it's not easy. I can't give you some kind of one-sentence proper answer. Okay, here's a small thing. Rahu is friends with Venus and Saturn, but that doesn't mean it's nice. We have Rahu and Venus together. The thing about it is Rahu can be extremely charismatic if it's mixed with Venus. Elvis, Steve Jobs. I mean, you see, Rahu represents machines, certain types of machines. Because in Vedic we say yantra. Rahu rules yantras, and also Rahu rules the knowledge of mantras. You have to have a very strong Rahu in the right place in your chart if you want to be a mantra expert. But then of course some of the mantra experts take the wrong turning and become a real nuisance. See? This is the thing. The snake can go in either direction. That's why Jupiter needs to be strong. It doesn't have to be with Rahu, but it needs to be strong. Okay, so where's Rahu strong? Anyone know? Huh? 10th and 11th house. Aquarius? You mentioned another one? Taurus. Yes, Taurus. Gemini, correct. Yeah. Taurus is said to be exalted. Gemini is another kind of exaltation. Two different kinds of exaltation. Virgo is very strong. Not everyone pays attention to that. Aquarius is his own sign. Mula Trikona. No, it's not Mula Trikona, it's his own sign. 7th house. Why is it strong in the 7th house? And? Right, why is it strong in the 7th? Digbala. Digbala? Yeah, so Rahu and Saturn are very strong in the 7th house because they get directional strength. It's the West, it's the place of death. They love it. Okay. We'll help you. We'll come with a big storm, strong winds, 6th and 11th houses, place of punishment. We'll help you with that too. But the best is, if they're in a sign of Jupiter, they become nice. Rahu becomes nice in signs of Jupiter. Relatively nice. Why? Because Jupiter's guiding. What's the but? Yeah, Swamiji is very wise. Rahu goes up, Jupiter goes down. Alright, so that's the cover of my book. It turns out it's actually quite difficult to get things printed in hardback, so it will be a paperback when the book comes, which will be very shortly. Yeah, they're mantras and philosophy. Yeah, the designer did it like that. Well, it's okay. So the whole, why I call it Yoga of the Planets, because there's not really a book just for astrologers. It's got astrology in it, but I completely avoided becoming like technical. So it's not like the no charts. Maybe I'll write a separate book for the astrologers with charts and things. But the point is the mantras, understand the meaning. Going through that. So it's not like getting into your head, okay, this is the third house, it's like that. I mean, I talk a little bit about the astrology. I mentioned some examples, but I don't, it's not really, it's more for yogis and for people interested in philosophy, self-realization. This is the main thing. But astrologers will definitely benefit. And there is a way of finding out the right mantras for your chart. We'll discuss that. So that's one of the, perhaps the greatest artist in the world for doing astrological and spiritual art, Peter Valtefreda. Let me use his beautiful paintings. That's his Rahu. You see the big head. Pretty scary, yeah? Alright. Okay, so the 108 mantras. Why? Because 108 is the whole universe. There's been some discussion so far in the conference about 108. It's the number of, if you take the 12 signs and you divide each one by 9, the Navamshas, then you get 108. So this is the basis of it. It's not just the signs, but the Navamshas. Because the Navamsha is your destiny. You can play around with the energies in the signs, but when it comes to the Navamsha, this is what is going to happen. And then the 27 nakshatras, which is your whole emotional and mental experience. Each one's divided into 4, representing the Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. And 4 times 27 is 108. So because it's the meeting of the sun which rules the signs and the moon which rules the nakshatras, it becomes our world. So that's why they produce sets of 108. 108 for all the planets, 108 for each of the deities. There's always sets of 108. And because of that, it's easy to relate it to the chart. Because we have 108 Navamshas, and our planets are in certain Navamshas, so we can easily find out which Navamsha is important for us. So as you go through, one way is to go through all the mantras, and then it gradually awakens all the different energies of the planet, and it kind of smooths the whole thing out. So, and they're very beautiful, the mantras. They're very simple, they're not complicated. Some of them slightly longer, but they're all perfectly okay for you don't have to be a big Vedic Pandit for these mantras. They tend to bring out the highest qualities, and we can select them. So I will explain. It's all explained in a lot of detail in the book, and I explain a simple way for like any yoga teacher can do it without knowing any much astrology. And then I have a bit more in the printed book. There's an extra chapter at the end for astrologers, We can go into more detail. Okay, so this is the classic story of how Rahu and Ketu were created. This is the story of Mohini. Anyone heard of the story of Mohini? Most people. Okay, so the demons and the gods were seeking the nectar of immortality. They all wanted to live forever. They both felt that they weren't strong enough to get it on their own. And so they were advised to churn the ocean, milk ocean, and create, the nectar would come out. So they kind of agreed, okay, we're going to share it when it comes out, so we'll cooperate. Neither side had any intention to share. Neither side. So when the nectar appeared, Dhanvantari appeared carrying the pot of nectar. So then, okay, now everyone was pulling their sword. So Lord Vishnu took the form of Mohini, Mohini means bewitching. It's like the most beautiful possible female form. And of course the demons went, ha, like complete gaga. And they just did whatever she told them. So she said, okay, all you demons, you sit here, and the gods should sit here, and I will distribute to everybody. Okay. So she's smiling at the demons and she's giving the nectar to the gods. Only one of the demons was a bit too smart, so he snuck in and stood in the line of the gods between the sun and the moon. So when she came to that demon, she started to pour, a few drops of nectar went in. And then the sun said, hey, this is not one of us. This is a demon. So in front of all the demons, she takes out her discus, the Sudarshana chakra, and chops the head. And the amazing thing is that the demons watched their fellow colleague being beheaded, and they were so gaga that they were unable to put two and two together, and they went on standing in line waiting. I mean, there's a lot of stories, a lot of things in this story. Anyway, you can see over here, this is Rahu, and you can see the discus is taking the head off. And there's Narayana in the middle, smiling at the demons and giving the nectar to the gods. But the point of the story, it's full of points, but the thing was Rahu and Ketu got a bit of the nectar. First thing. Secondly, the head was cut off by Vishnu. That means whoever Vishnu cuts gets a blessing. They got double blessing. This is the thing that we must not forget. So there is this beautiful mantra, which I was surprised to find when I first went through that. But it's actually because of this story. So let's see. This comes about in the middle of the mantras, but I put it here because I wanted to explain this. Om Govinda Vara Patraya Nama Om Govinda Vara Patraya Nama Om Govinda Vara Patraya Nama. Govinda. Govinda is the Lord. Jai Govinda, Jai Govinda, Jai Govinda. And Vara means the blessing or the grace. And Patra is a pot. this is the thing about Rahu. He is the container of the grace of the Lord. Om Govinda Varapatraya Namah. You can't really, it's like just so beautiful, you can't imagine. Feel it? You know, how higher can you get than this really? When you think about it, like you're having a problem with someone, you can see that Rahu is in full force. If you can really invoke this energy, it will completely transform the situation. At least in your consciousness. But whatever happens in your consciousness changes your world. You know. See, this is the beauty of these mantras. They're just so beautiful. All right, this is number 9, one of the early ones. Om Nila Jimuta Sankashaya Nama. Om Nila Jimuta Sankashaya Nama. He's like a blue, dark blue cloud. So in the book, what I do is, or Kindle or the printed book. So I give a little translation, then I have some commentary, some thoughts that came to me about it. But you see, you have to think, at this point, if we have the concept that really behind the Rahu is the grace of God, and then we think of the Nila, like both Lord Vishnu is said to be Nila, and Lord Shiva, Nilakanta, he's said to have the blue-throated. Why he's got the blue throat? Because he absorbed the poison. Rahu is full of poison. And when the poison was given to Lord Shiva, it just produced a little decoration, like his throat went blue. And so he becomes beautiful. Everybody says, Nilakantaya Namah. It's become something beautiful. So that's why the Shiva mantras are so beneficial. Because if we're, if our attention is going to the Shiva element, which is our own self, then all the poison of Rahu is just becoming a decoration. You see that? So, here we go. Okay, Ramakrishna Paramahansa was a great saint, one of India's greatest saints. Anyone never heard of him? Okay, good. All right, so you see he's Aquarius rising. So Aquarius' primary ruler is Rahu. And Rahu is in the 4th house, exalted in Taurus, and it's the Atmakaraka. So it's all Rahu. The moon's in Aquarius, the sun's in Aquarius. He's such a great person. Look at Jupiter in the 5th, aspecting the ascendant. So this is, there's a special yoga which you find in the charts of many really great saints, where Rahu plays a very strong role. But Jupiter has to be in a trine. And then the person becomes like the embodiment of God. for Dakshinamurti Yoga.
Under the numbers you are giving are the nakshatra numbers?
All right, so now we explain the numbers. So this is, on the right, we have the South Indian chart, and there I put the degrees and the Charakaraka status. So next to the Rahu you see 2 degrees 53 Taurus, and AK means Atmakaraka. Atmakaraka is a significator of the self. On the left we've got the North Indian chart, and here the degree is being converted into the count of Navamshas starting from 0 degrees Aries. So in version 7 of my software this is already available. So it's easy enough. I mean, there's 9 Navamshas in Aries, and the Atmakaraka is there 2 degrees 53, so it's in the 10th Navamsha. So all you need to know to get the mantra from the list for the Atmakaraka or for Rahu or for whatever is to count the number of Navamshas from 0 degrees Aries. This is the simplest but also very important way of counting. In the book it explains a few different ways of counting. So the simplest thing is just count from 0 degrees Aries, and this is the view from what we call the Kala Purusha, or we can say it's the view of the Creator. Because in Vedic astrology we say Aries is like the natural ascendant. It's the ascendant of the Creator, so we say it's kind of God's view of things. So it's always important. So his Rahu is in the 10th Navamsha. Okay? Is that anybody doesn't get that?
So Andrew,
yes.
Could you customize like your own mantra based on that? Like
that's the point.
We'll together, that would be your personal.
Yes.
To strengthen the clarify.
Yeah, that's what we're going to try and understand now. So the first thing is to get the number. So today's talk is on Rahu, so I'm focusing on Rahu. This particular person happens to have the Atmakaraka is Rahu. So the number here is 10. So then we can look it up in the list. Om Chatur Pujaya Nama Om Chatur Bhujaya Nama Om Chatur Bhujaya Nama. So you see, when you're reading it in the list, there's a certain point in most of the lists where it starts describing the sort of how you would imagine the planet. So, okay, he's got 4 arms, and then it lists the things he's carrying in his hands. But before this, I put these other things, the other 2 mantras, which come later in the list, is so you understand that it's not just the Rahu with 4 arms, there's also Vishnu with 4 arms. So if Vishnu is going to take a form of a Rahu Atmakaraka, that Chatubhujaya, you have to think of it like that. This is like an incarnation, someone with this level of greatness. So why is it Atmakaraka and Chatubhujaya? That means it's telling us, that Navamsha of the Atmakaraka is telling us that this is God. This is my view of it. I hope you appreciate what I'm trying to say. Because we saw the chart, it's full of divinity. And this is a perfect name. If it was Dvibhuja, which means 2 hands, fine, he's a human being, treat him as a human being, but it's a Chatubhujaya. That means he's taken some form. Behind the appearance is something that's divine. All right, so in the list of things that is in the hands, there's this mantra. Om Vara Dayaka Hastakaya Nama. Om Vara Dayaka Hastakaya Nama. Om Vara Dayaka Hastakaya Nama. So, Varadayaka Hastakaya, one of his hasta is the hand. So one of them is blessing. His blessing. So the fact that this is said for Rahu is telling us that Rahu is perfectly capable of blessing us. If all four hands were carrying weapons, then there's no hope. Run. But if one hand is ready to bless, you might as well put your head on the floor. Then the weapons in the other hands will become inactivated, deactivated, and the blessing hand will be up. It's the only way of handling it. Any other method, then you're facing the weapons. He's got more hands with weapons than you have. So this is a beautiful mantra. Just in case you forget, Om Shula Yudhaya Nama. We're just going to do that one once. He's got a nice spear in his hand. One of the hands is a nice spear. He will stab you in the front, he'll stab you in the back, he'll stab you in the side, he'll stab you in some way or other. He will keep on stabbing you until your head is on the floor. That's it. Think you're so big. Have another. That's it, one humiliation after another. You did nothing, but someone reported you as doing something. The newspaper said you did something. They made the whole thing up, but still you have to face it. The humiliation, everybody's blaming you, nobody's listening to you. So then you think, what is this going on? All right, who's Sri Sharada Devi? His wife. Venus Atmakarika. Lakshmi Devi. Lakshmi comes. We're not discussing that today. Anyway, they're nothing to do with the divinity. Okay, so Rahu and Shani in the 7th house. I mean, you would think that's not good. Hopeless marriage situation. Yeah, okay, so she got married when she was, 6 or something? Very young, and then her husband went away somewhere. When she was, 14 or 16 or something, he came back. But by that time he was basically sannyasi. So he said to her, fine, you don't need to, have a nice life. find someone else. She said no. Anyway. So, the Rahu is 15, and then what I've done is, because this is a great soul, but we can apply any chart, it's applicable, but particularly in the charts of the saints, I've done the count from Venus, from the Atmakarika, and it's not difficult. You just have to subtract the number for Rahu from the number of the Atmakarika, and that's easy if the planets are ahead in the zodiac. But in this case, because Rahu is 15 and Venus is 89, so you're going to get a minus. So you have to add 108, and you have to add 1 because the count starts from 1, not 0. You know, a planet in the first Vamsha is 1, not 0, so you have to always add 1. In the book, it has a little table. You just look up the degree of your planet and you get the number, and it gives a few examples, so you can, it's easy if you don't have the software. I mean, I'll make an app, but it will take a little while. Okay, so anyway, that gives us 35. So we can look up the 15 and the 35. All right, this is 15. Om Tivra Kopaya Nama. All right. Now, normally when you see, this is why I picked these. I mean, I just picked these people, and then I looked up the mantras, and I didn't decide to drop the chart. I'm keeping the chart because the point about it is we have to really understand. Even when you're going through the Rahu mantras, there are a few of them that are really like, oh my God, sort of things. But this is part of life. So the charts of these great people help us to understand. That's why I've done this. So Tivra Kopaya, I mean, ardent passion is a nice translation. A very soft translation, you know. If someone is really, really angry, like, you know, it's like facing the fire of destruction at the end of the world, as they say, the Tivra Kopa. The extreme anger. They are just like crazy angry. You can understand why Rahu is connected to terrorists. People who do really, really violent things, they're Tivra Kopa. But basically, it gives this kind of ardent passion. So you see, any ordinary person, they get married as a little kid, none of their choice or anything, it just happened. And then the husband becomes a sannyasi, and he says, well, you know, please marry someone else. He would say, yes, good idea. You know, it requires some kind of unusual intensity, like some kind of very special, and all you're going to do for the whole of your life is you're going to cook his chapati, and he's never going to touch you. And you're going to live in an incredibly tiny little hut sort of thing. And you're not only going to cook his chapati, all his people who come to see him, their chapati. Like, you know, you couldn't do it unless you had something like this. You have to understand you know, that every single thing has some extraordinary potential in it. And what did she get? Okay, what about this one? 35. So we look up 35 and think, oh, look at this. Om Manda Sakaya Nama. Om Manda Sakaya Nama. Om Manda Sakaya Nama. Oh, it just means a friend of Saturn. Manda is the one who goes slowly moving along. So who is Saturn? Yeah, she's got Rahu and Shani in the 7th house. You have to love him. But who is Manda really? Who is this Shani? He's the renunciate. Look at it, so perfect. If she didn't love the renunciate, how would she be sitting there, following him? Alright, now we can look at Einstein's chart. There's a contrast, a little bit of a contrast here. Okay. Alright, so Rahu and Mars in Capricorn in the 8th house. So he's the greatest genius, of creative genius in the field of science. I mean, nobody competes with him. It's just brilliant. 8th house for research, exalted Mars with Rahu. Rahu can, how would he ever conceive of the whole structure of the universe and how it all came about and everything? And 100 years later, it's still working perfectly, and we still can't understand it. When he first produced his theory, nobody understood it. Like 1 or 2 people somewhat understood it. Literally. I got a job at the Royal Greenwich Observatory, the British government's astronomical centre, and I was looking in the library, and in some cupboard somehow I found this file, like box file this big, and the entire contents were people's articles that were written when he published his first relativity papers, saying why he was wrong. Just rubbishing him in every possible way. They collected them all, fat file. Yeah. Anyway, so he's 84. Rahu is 84. And now I thought, okay, this is not about the Atma Karaka. Let's try something else. This is ordinary, he's a great person, but what we know of him is not so much the spiritual side, we're more about his impact on our world and all that. So it's more about the mind. So I thought, okay, let's try counting from the moon. That's easy. Rahu is 84, the moon's 70. We can all do that. So we got 15 again. Yeah? Okay, let's do 84. Om Adao Yasha Pradatre Nama. Om Adao Yasha Pradatre Nama. Yasha is fame. In the beginning he gives fame. This is, there are a number of possible translations. I discussed it in the book. Adao, one of the meanings is beginning. So what happened? He got fame quickly. Like his first work, really, his first published works, he got a Nobel Prize for the first paper, and then he published the Relativity. And then the rest of his life he was trying to complete the job, but didn't succeed, really. So that's one possible way of understanding it, but certainly he became extraordinarily famous. First among the famous, we could say. So that certainly makes some sense. And then this is that mantra we already looked at. Okay, now we can think about some other possible meanings of this mantra.
Well, he had a history of domestic abuse.
Exactly.
He was the abuser?
Well, he didn't treat his family very nicely, they say. That's what they say, yes. I mean, he kind of abandoned his wife and kids, didn't he, on some level? I mean, now we're giving him the Rahu, we're doing our Rahu thing on him, right? But I mean, you see, and then you can keep on multiplying this thing. Okay, so he came up with the beautiful theory of understanding the universe. Some people said, hey, we can make a nice weapon out of this. Then they produced the ultimate weapon to destroy all of us overnight. And then he was, what did he say? Oh, very, horrible. I mean, you can see so much in this, right? It all depends on the person. And then we're not categorizing anybody. You're not having like a box for the saints and a box for the sinners. No, everyone has the whole range, but it has different levels of expression. Yeah. And the other thing, is that you would never ever get the discovery like Einstein did if you didn't have an ardent passion for it. He must have had it in his mind every waking moment. Something was just cooking all the time, thinking, like you could see the whole galaxies going round and round, and at some point it fell into place for him. That's also Tivra Kopa. It just gives that extreme intensity, and if you wherever you put it, you see what I'm saying? So, that's why, rather than thinking, oh my God, I hate, I'm afraid of this mantra, and that's why I say in the book, with mantras like this, you don't just sit there mindlessly repeating them. Because we're not trying to invoke any old energy. What we want is to understand it, to find the truth in it. So for the more difficult mantras, then it's a more meditation process is what I recommend. Don't just mindlessly repeat the mantra. Go, oh look, my thing is 15, so difficult. No. Just meditate on it, just contemplate the thing. Try to understand it, which is because you're trying to understand yourself. That's the main point of this whole lecture. Because there are a few difficult mantras in Rahu, more than in all the others. All of the malefics have a few. Rahu has more than the others. But wherever you come across them, because the nice mantras like Govinda Varapatra, that's easy, oh yeah, so nice, right? We can keep repeating that, mindlessly or not, But this sort of thing, this is where we start getting real. So they're very valuable, really. Yes?
So, the mantras apply also to different languages?
See, in the book I've got into a lot on detail on this. Because you have to always think what level you're applying. So if you're on the Aruda level, yes, definitely. So it's all, I discuss it. Yeah. Bill, you had a question.
Actually, I just had the same thought you had, to get greatness, the ardent passion has to consume your life.
It does, you see. Otherwise you'd never.
Because normal people are balanced.
That's right. It's an imbalance. It's a form of imbalance, but those are the people we remember.
Right. Because
they sacrificed themselves for something. Yes. I mean, this is, there are other. Here's Swami Shodan. Have to honor Swamiji, who was one of the greatest, without question. Okay. It's the Atmakaraka Sasan, and it's at 35. No, it's 43. Sun's at 43. Yeah. So the point is Rahu is 35, and then if you adjust it from the Atmakaraka, you get 101. So, okay, let's look at that. Here's another nice mantra. Om Bhayankaraya Namah. Om Bhayankaraya Namah. You have to think of Swamiji when you say this one. Om Bhayankaraya Namah. See, if you think of Swamiji, there's no problem with this mantra at all. Otherwise it's like scary, because Bhaya is the fear and Kara is the creator of it. So what on earth is this? Why is this coming up for Swamiji? Yes. So he had that in him, but also if people who are like people with that kind of quality of life, I mean, what is worth being afraid of? Is there anything worth being afraid of? Yeah, is there anything worth being afraid of? No? Afraid of sin, that's what I would say. It is worth being afraid of sin. If someone is really afraid of sin, they will be very perfect person, really. They will try every which way not to touch in any way. I mean, they're the sannyasi because they don't want to touch the money, they don't want to touch all the complications of human, you know. I mean, that's one way of understanding it. And you have to face up these things. You know, it's like this is someone who has faced this thing. So they've become the Govinda Varapatra, the container of the grace of God, by virtue of they went to the door of the temple, they saw the guardian, which is the fear, and they walked in, while everyone else is keeping a nice distance. Right? That's basically it, I think. Okay, how about this nice one? Om Pida Kaya Namah. Om Pida Kaya Namah. All right, this is another nice one. So I discussed this one a bit. I had some other translation, but this is the point. Its function is to crush everything down until it becomes so fine that it's capable of fathoming the truth. Yes? If you can't do that, it's hard to get the truth, you know. So it's like funny, why is Swamiji, there's two incredible mantras, but look at it. What a greatness. So, yeah?
What do you mean understanding the nature of training?
Yes, that's true.
Pida Kaya. Kaya means, I mean, that's, I'm thinking about Swamiji because he was a doctor as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Part of his thing was giving medicine.
Yes,
He
that's
may
right.
have understood that. I mean, you could be
You're
a
right.
creator of pain,
Yes,
but you can also be understanding.
exactly. Then you become a doctor, like doctor of the body, doctor of the soul.
He was also of the body,
Yeah.
but he Kaya means form. So Pida Kaya, Pida means pain.
Well, it's not, it's Pitaka. It's not Kaya, it's Pitaka.
In this world there
Yeah, it's Pitaka. Pitaka.
The kaya is the form, but in this mantra, the Pirakaya as a one word, not two words.
Yeah, it's Pitaka.
Pirakaya means suffer.
Suffering.
Suffering.
So I was still translating.
Yeah.
Understanding suffering.
No. But you see, that's the point. If you don't, there's nothing useless in creation. Everything. You see, the malefics are all there to help us transform. So everything they do to us is part of the transformation process. If we're hanging on to something that we need to let go of, they will start hurting us. And they will keep on ratcheting it up until we let go. And this is just the truth, what to do about it. Let go, all right? When we let go, we get the grace, and we get the joy, and the bliss. And then the next thing we have to let go of, this is the way the universe works. So, it seems very heartless and ruthless and cruel, but ultimately it's the grace of God. That's the story of Rahu. And it's one way of understanding that is by looking at the souls that have carried that. I mean, they are the embodiment of that. So, you come in His presence and He's not going to leave any one of your sins. He's going to see that every single little bit of you gets purified, right? Healed. That's the greatness, the extraordinary greatness. The Rahu is, we say snake energy, but it's better to think about the Nagas. The Nagas are the great, like the one round the neck of Lord Shiva. There's a king of the Nagas. The other king of the Nagas is supporting Lord Vishnu. And there are a few other great Nagas. They're all immortal. And they are fully present around us in their various forms. And you meet people who are very much embodying that. These are people worthy of great respect. You may not, they're sort of hidden. And each one of us to some extent embodies this, because we all have a Rahu and Ketu. And it's there's nothing to be benefited from trying to deny that part of our existence. That's what we do. We deny. I always thought that one of mankind's greatest capability is skill in denying. We know I'm not manipulating, I'm not exploiting. But what's the point? Let's be honest, because the honesty reveals the divinity behind these energies. Thank you.